So this Korean taco would not be complete without kimchi. So as I mentioned, I lived in South Korea for 4 years. It was an incredible time of my life. I was extremely creative. That's when I really got into being a chef. I wrote 4 cookbooks with a neighbor of mine, Jessica Perlasa. She's, you can find her on Instagram under Kindler of Glow. And she was such an inspiration of mine. She was an incredible food photographer, and we really got geeky when it came to fermenting foods in our kitchens. So I've perfected the kimchi recipe, and I use it without shrimp brine. The original Korean recipe will use gochu, karu, okay, that red pepper that gives it that really bright red color, garlic, ginger, and then sometimes they'll add green onions or carrots. We've got a little bit of both of those. And then they usually add shrimp brine. So that's the only thing that I'm not including in this traditional recipe. Okay, the other really important thing is salt. Of course, we need salt. So grab that. All right, it's so simple. Literally, it's shredded cabbage. I threw a little bit of carrots in there for color, like flecks of color. I'm gonna throw in a bunch of green onion. Okay, so this is green onion and the bulb of the green onion. Then we have the ginger. Ginger is excellent for our digestive health. It can help with nausea. It's been used for centuries, for millennia, and actually as a medicine because of this strong carminative property. Then we're going to add garlic, the gochugaru, and a bunch of salt. Don't worry, I'll give you the real recipe. But the more you practice making your own kimchi in the kitchen, the more you will actually be able to fine tune. You won't need a recipe. You won't need to measure the salt. The only thing you don't want to do is put too much salt. If you put too much salt, then it won't ferment at all. It'll like preserve it. And if you put too little salt, it will be ready really, really fast. So for as much cabbage as we have, I'm going to put about that much salt. All right, so if you can look at the ratio, this much salt to this much cabbage, it's not that much. It's probably more than you would put in anything else as far as salt content. But remember, kimchi is more like a condiment. Okay, so let's kind of start to stir that around, mix that in. Okay, at first, you know, it's just gonna look like mixed vegetables, but the salt is going to get in to the vegetable and it's gonna start to pull out the natural juices in the cabbage. Okay, as it does this, the gochu pepper flakes are also going to start to blend in with the kimchi. And now I'm going to start to squeeze it. Okay, and you can see it's already changing color. It's already starting to soften. It's already starting to become a bit wet in my hands. I'm feeling that. You know, use your hands. Don't use gloves. This is just my opinion. I think that when we put our hands into the food, we give that food our intention. We give that food our love. So I'm putting love, I'm putting strength, I'm putting patience into this beautiful kimchi. I'm putting health. And look at how it's just transforming right before our very eyes. You can already see it starting to soften. Okay, and this is what we're looking for. We are looking for when we grab our kimchi and we squeeze it, the liquid comes out. And you saw I didn't add any liquid. It's just the cabbage and the salt pulls the natural liquid right outside the cabbage. Okay, so when you can pick it up and squeeze it and you have a bunch of liquid coming through your hands, then you get to pack it. All right, so we're gonna pack it in glass and only glass. So I really wanna pack it tight. So I'll start by, you know, putting as much as I can with my hand. Okay, and then I'm gonna use my Vitamix tamper, making a big mess here. And I'm gonna pack it down really tight, okay? You don't want really much oxygen at all. You don't want any bubbles. Okay? And as you can see, that's a lot. So I'm gonna put in more. Okay, and you don't wanna actually fill it to the top. You wanna give it a little bit of room. Because over the next 24 hours, there's going to be more brine appearing because the salt is going to continue to pull it out of the cabbage. And that brine, if you pack it too tight, it will actually start to bubble over. And I've learned this the hard way. You know, always put your kimchi with a plate underneath because it'll start to bubble over. It'll drip all over your counter. It'll make a big, huge mess. Okay. So also this pepper can stain. Just keep that in mind. One thing that you want to do is you want to add what's called a follower. And this is like a piece of cabbage that you can add on top. Leave behind one piece when you're chopping up all your cabbage. Leave behind one piece. And we put it on top. Okay, and then from there we can actually push down a little bit. And what you want is you want the brine to rise above. So right now, this cabbage, it's doing two things. It's keeping the kimchi down. It's also protecting if any mold wants to grow, and sometimes it will if it's exposed to air. It will keep that there. And when you're ready to have your kimchi, you just discard this cabbage piece, and then everything under the brine is fine. Okay, so that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for this brine solution, as you can see, coming up, pushing it really hard. It's starting to come to the top, right? Now you actually want to keep that liquid. That's good stuff. What I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to rinse this jar, and I'm going to cover it very loosely. You could cover it with a lid, but don't tighten the lid. Cover it with a cloth with an elastic band, but you want to cover it and you're going to leave it on your counter for at least a week. If you're in a really warm climate, a week is probably enough. If you're in Canada or the northern United States or somewhere else where it's really cold, you're going to want to probably leave it for 2 weeks. You can taste it after a week, see how it is, and you want it to be slightly sour, but to have a balance of umami and sour and salty. Okay, so let's put this away. Let's get it ready to ferment, and then we're gonna make our Korean tacos. Hi, welcome back. We are now going to make a Korean gochu cream cheese, or mayo, whatever you want to call it. Korean gochu cream cheese. Let's go with that. That's another really fun part and creative part of what I love about making food, is being able to choose these weird, quirky names, taking some of the ingredients that exist in the food and highlighting those in the title. So when you're making your own recipes at home, name them something amazing and make it a thing. So it's that recipe that you go to. What is gochu? I lived in Korea for 4 years, South Korea. And this is where I really fell in love with kimchi and fermented foods. I learned so much about these incredible foods. They would eat them almost every single day with almost every single meal. And a highlight of their food is this red pepper that's called gochu. Maybe you've heard of gochujang before, or gochugaru. This is actually gochugaru. Garu means powder in Hangul, which is the Korean language. And jang means sauce or paste in the Korean language of Hangul. So Korean is actually not a language. Hangul is the language. So we're going to use this pepper. It's not that spicy, and that's why we can use quite a bit of it. Okay, this is the base for what you see as kimchi and why kimchi is red. So in this beautiful gochugaru gochu sauce, we're going to add the gochus, dulse. Okay, so that's a seaweed, a North Atlantic seaweed. You can also add nori, some garlic, apple cider vinegar, and a liquid sweetener. So this could be agave, coconut nectar, or maple syrup. Let's add a pinch of salt, and then let's mix that. Okay. So you should have this like spicy, salty, sour kind of paste. Okay. And then, of course, we're going to add our base, which is that fermented cashew cream. Okay. So now we just fold in our gochu spicy paste. We can reuse this jar. Yum. Okay. I did something really bad. You probably already know. I didn't taste it. So I'm going to taste it now. Wow. It reminds me of South Korea. And it's got that bit of sweetness. It's got all of it. Sweetness, sour, salty, that garlic. Oh, got some garlic. We're going to mix this up, and we're going to make Korean lettuce tacos. Hi, Hi, welcome back to this amazing program. I am very excited to show you this next recipe. First of all, it's super delicious. Second, easy, and it's very, very nutritious. I mean, that's what we're all about here at Pachavega. We're trying to get as much nutrition in our diet as possible. And so, a very simple technique called marinate and dehydrate. And there are kind of 3 stages to this dehydration process that will give us 3 different results. The first one is kind of just like a salad. It's basically making a marinade, mixing it with your veggies, and that's it. And then you can eat it. The next one is that you do that same first step, and then you put them on the dehydrator, and you dehydrate for 4 or 5 hours at 115 degrees. What happens then is most of the excess liquid gets kind of dehydrated, and what you have left is a soft, malleable, roasted-like vegetable. You can also add nuts and seeds and fruits and dried fruits and all kinds of things. So this is one recipe, and I call it Moroccan broccoli and cabbage. So let's start with the marinade. Very, very simple, some really great flavor balances. So here I've got apple cider vinegar. So this is going to start with a sour bit. When I'm making marinades, I'm always thinking about all the flavors: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami, and how they kind of play and dance on my tongue. So I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil. You don't have to, you can totally leave out olive oil, but this is cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, which has the most benefits and phenolific compounds. Dates that have been soaked. So instead of using maple syrup, I mean, I love maple syrup, you can totally use maple syrup, but dates have the sweetness that balances it and the fiber. So I really like to add as much fiber as I can into my diet, a mix of soluble and insoluble. Okay, then we've got the delicious spices. So cumin. Cumin is one of the most top used spice in all the world, actually. It has so many different cultural significances, from Indian to Mexican and Moroccan. This is smoked paprika, okay, which comes from the red pepper, and then they smoke that red pepper and dry it and grind it into a powder. Tahini, tahin, I don't know how you pronounce it in Hebrew, but I have a lot of Israeli friends, and they love their tahini. And that's, oh, and garlic, of course. And so garlic is a medicine. It's been used for centuries in so many different cultures. And even Hippocrates himself recommended that his patients eat garlic. So a little bit of garlic, or the allium family every day, is really good to include in your diet. So that could be onion, green onion, red onion, leeks, shallots, garlic. Okay? And actually, if you cut it beforehand, you mix the different chemical constituents together, because when you're cutting it, they break, the cells break open, they mix, and you create compounds that are actually stronger and more potent and powerful than it is if you just eat it whole or immediately cook with it. So cut your garlic ahead of time. Okay, so that's the marinade. Let's blend it. All right, so now we're going to taste it. Yummy. Okay. I really like it. Ooh, it's so good in so many ways, but it's missing like that saltiness. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of Bragg's liquid aminos. You could also add coconut aminos. Now this is like a really deep umami flavor. You could also add tamari. These are all kind of the same thing. Really deep, rich, long ferment. Yeah, and it's going to add that saltiness as well. Wow. Whoa. It's really intense, but that's good. You want it intense, because as soon as you pour it over the veggies being so plain and actually having a ton of water content themselves will take away the intensity of the marinade. So if you think it's too strong, just wait until you add in a bowl purple cabbage And you'll be surprised how much this shrinks down after we put it in the dehydrator. And broccoli, amazing. And then red onion. So it's just those 3 ingredients. You can play around, you can do anything. You know, this is like, make the marinade, change it up a bit. Instead of the apple cider vinegar, put lime juice. These veggies can be completely changed. You can use all kinds of different veggies. This is just one idea. So I really encourage you to play around in the kitchen and be inspired to experiment. So here we go. So once it's all marinated, once it's all coated, you want to let it sit for a bit. The marinade and the salt in the marinade will start to pull out the natural waters in the vegetables, and they'll become softer, almost, you know, probably within the next few minutes. Like, we could almost make it start to go softer just like now in this moment that I'm talking to you. In fact, it is. It's already starting to soften. The cabbage is starting to shrink down in the bowl. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So maybe you don't even need to let it sit. Maybe you can put it straight on the dehydrator sheet. So these, when you buy a dehydrator, they typically don't come with these sheets. These sheets are absolutely essential to use the dehydrator properly. They just come with these grates, and unfortunately these grates, you can't really put anything on them because it will just drip. If you put this marinade, all the marinade will drip. Whereas on the silicone, it sits and it dehydrates. So here's where we call it like step 1. And so this is, you know, as a salad. So we can eat it as is, not a problem. It smells really good. Actually, it smells delicious. Then we're gonna put it in the dehydrator for about 4 hours, and we'll take a look at it, and that will be step 2. And then we'll dehydrate it overnight, and that will be step 3. It's just super versatile, and I'm really excited to show you the next couple recipes. Once you have like these fillings, these sort of roasted type veggies, you can make 3 or 4 recipes ahead of time on one day, and then you can have them in your fridge for the whole week. So it's a really great way to get all this awesome nutrition, spend a couple hours in the kitchen, and put all that love and your intention into this beautiful food. Awesome. So we're gonna make just a really simple kind of walnut crumble. It only has a few ingredients, and it's gonna go with our Korean tacos. So let's fill the food processor, click, with activated walnuts. So these are walnuts that have soaked overnight, rinsed really well, and dehydrated. Now we wanna do that to release the enzyme inhibitors. So basically what I'm saying is all your nuts and seeds should be soaked ahead of time and then dehydrated. Soaked, rinsed, dehydrated, and then they last forever. Fresh garlic and garlic powder, toasted sesame oil, and a little bit of Bragg's liquid aminos. You could also use tamari. You could use coconut aminos if you're doing soy free. Okay, and that's it. Then we're going to process it. Okay. All right, so let's just taste it, and let's also look at the texture. Okay, so the texture is kind of like this. It's wet because of the tomato, and it's so delicious. Yay. I don't even have to flavor balance it. Okay, amazing. So this is gonna be part of the filling of our taco. Hi, welcome back. Now, I have some strange news to share. We're gonna take our Moroccan broccoli and cabbage, and we're gonna put it in our Korean lettuce tacos. Why would we do this? Well, because why not? It's called fusion food. I lived in South Korea for 4 years, and I started to really love Korean food. Then when I moved back to Canada, I decided to become a raw food chef. So this was over 10 years ago. I studied intensely for many years, and at the end of it, I decided that some flavors, they go well together. Not saying that Korean and Moroccan food should be paired, but it's possible to mix different cultural cuisines and make something totally new and unexpected. So I welcome you to try this in your own kitchen. You don't have to stick to a certain cultural cuisine. Now, some things might taste better together, and they might not taste better together, but this is part of you learning how to improvise in your kitchen. So today we're taking these beautiful romaine lettuce leaves, and we're going to be making our tacos. So the assembly is quite easy. I like to do 3 numbers of 1, 3, 5. Those are really nice and pleasant for the eye. We could just do 1 because this plate is kind of small. All right, so I'm thinking texture contrast. I'm thinking color contrast. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with something more wet, which is this walnut crumble, like that. Then we can add our gochu mayo. So that's not contrasty. So give me a minute, I'll show you what we're going to do. Now I wanted to show you the difference between the kind of half roasted and the totally dry. So you can see this one was like left all night and it has more of a dry texture. The cabbage is much more soft, whereas this one is still quite wet and yeah, I can even like, the onions are still whole. It's got a bit more moisture to it. Again, it doesn't matter. Experiment at your house. We're just, for this purposes, we're just going to mix it all together and use it as the base of our tacos. So now we've got a little bit of contrast. Highlight some of the ingredients like the broccoli, okay, which are also contrasty. Throw that there. Okay. Of course, a Korean taco would not be complete without some kimchi. We can add a bit more of that sauce on top. And then of course we're going to top it off with sprouts or microgreens, also known as. That's it. So here you have a Korean taco. Absolutely, I can't wait to sink my teeth into this. Okay, maybe I will right now. Look at that. Boom. I can't hold it together. It's so good. It reminds me of Korea. I just had a laugh attack, and my laugh attack makes me cry. I hope you have a laugh attack too when you make this delicious food.